All right, we'll see what happens here, my friends. Hey, beginner guitar lessons is here. Hey, man. Michael Fisher. All right. I wish I had a great explanation. Don't know. Hey, Scott Rhodes, look at that. All right. Getting the band back together again. I will continue in a moment. We'll let the numbers swell a little bit. Just so you guys know, my plan now, I want to talk about the reasons you should never play electric guitar. And then I want to get into our guitar play along of the night. And I want to get into, hey, Patricia, I want to get into our chord royalty, because those are two things got to have, especially both of them, but the chord royalty is stuff left over from last time that we didn't get to. So we will get to that chord royalty in a minute. I want to give folks a chance to jump back in. I see lots of speculation in the chat about what happened. I wish I knew. I upgraded my internet substantially a few months ago, and didn't have any problems. So we may never know. Okay, so because I know some of you are going to be watching this in the future, or some of you are in the future watching this on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, let's get right into it. Okay, reasons why you should never play the electric guitar. Okay. Hey, Rock Lobster. Here's a pretty obvious reason. Don't play electric guitar, because all your mistakes are literally going to be amplified coming out of the amplifier, right? You know, you'll be very aware of every mistake you make. Of course, the flip side of that is, yeah, you don't make as many mistakes because you don't want to hear those big, loud mistakes. You play electric guitar, you're going to become, I would predict, even more aware of any mistake you make. That's why this ties in with what we were talking about in terms of playing the 12 string and getting muffled notes, and then me talking about recording the chord melody arrangement videos and, you know, hearing a stray sound on the electric guitar. So you guys know I'm not really serious. Of course you should play electric guitar, but yeah, let's acknowledge it. Your mistakes are going to come out loud and proud. You know, electric guitar is, you know, it's going to put you in the spotlight in a unique way, going to put your abilities in the spotlight in a unique sort of way. Okay, let's talk about some other things. Other reasons to not play electric guitar. Your picking accuracy is going to become really important. You know, it's easy to strum. It's easy for any of us on any instrument to strum, say, 3 strings when we mean to strum 2, or 2 strings when we mean to strum 1, right? On the acoustic guitar, there's a chance that only the string you want to play will come out loud and clear, and the other string you hit by mistake might be kind of quiet. Not so on electric guitar. Any inaccuracies in your pick ability, playing with a plastic pick, any inaccuracies are going to come out, right? So playing electric guitar is going to force you to pick better. It's great. We like that, right? Of course we do. In general, electric guitars pretty much always have a thinner neck. It's a different feel, right? That means the fretboard is thinner in that way, right? That means your fretting hand, in this case, my left hand, kind of feels like it has a little bit less real estate to work with. Yeah, it's going to make your left hand more accurate. We want that, right? We want that. So I'm saying, oh, don't play electric guitar. It's going to make you a better guitar player. Your fretting hand is going to have to be that much more accurate. The strings are thinner. It's going to feel a little bit different, right? You could argue that there's less of a string to grab. They're so thin and slippery on electric guitar. Yeah, a little bit, So you gotta have skills. You gotta up your game with your fretting hand. Electric guitar opens the possibility for a lot of sound effects, a lot of unique sounds. Like I have the delay set here. Right? Ooh, you don't want that on electric guitar. You don't want to have fun getting a few effects pedals or an effects processor and making cool sounds. That will distract you from all those major scales you're going to practice. So you never want to play electric guitar. You might have some fun. Heaven forbid you make cool sounds and have fun, right? Bar chords. Bar chords might be easier on electric guitar. You wouldn't want that. You wouldn't want easier bar chords, right? You want to sweat over bar chords. You want to get frustrated. You play a nice, successful series of bar chords. You might actually feel like you're making progress. So whatever you do, don't get an electric guitar and find out how bar chords are like significantly easier on electric guitar. That would be a shame, right? So these are all the reasons you should never play electric guitar. It's going to make you a better guitar player. It's going to be fun. Certain things are just going to be easier. You get what I'm saying, right? It's fun playing electric guitar. Yeah. I highly encourage those of you who currently own an acoustic guitar to strongly think about getting an electric guitar someday when the time is right. You'll know when the time is right. And you can get it using that affiliate link with Sweetwater. Why not? Electric guitar is a blast. But circling back to the main point, yes, your mistakes, any inaccuracies, any dead muffled strings get amplified, and that can be frustrating. Yeah. But it forces you to up your game. Final thought. I was preparing a song to record for the Chord Melody Songbook for the video, and I was playing it on acoustic guitar. I knew I was going to be recording it with this guitar, but I was practicing on acoustic guitar, and I realized in a lot of ways acoustic guitar is more forgiving. The chances of me bumping a string accidentally and having that sound come blaring out of an amplifier, well, that was never going to happen on acoustic guitar. And yeah, it happened more than once on the electric guitar, right? So I thought, man, in some, there was a little voice in my head that said, hey, dummy, you should have done all this on acoustic guitar. Number one, it was too late. But number two, I wanted to use my new guitar from LSL Instruments out of Southern California. Number three, I liked how it was making me a better guitar player for all those things I mentioned. I had to be more accurate. I had to be careful, Number four, I liked the vibe. There are some things that electric guitar did that I'm not going to say made my life easier, but you hit a note and it's going to sustain a little bit as you're preparing for the next note. It's going to help fill in the sound. And in some ways that was that became a positive in some ways too. But it was a challenge. Okay. So, hey, thank you, you guys. I see 19 people, 21 people already here. Thank you for coming on over. Hey, Gary and Steph, thank you for your support. I appreciate that. Hello, Deborah Scott, G. Woodward. Hello, Michael, Patricia, Rock Lobster, Deborah. Thank you guys for coming on over. I made a note of the poll results. So let's see. Well, we got plenty of time. Here's what I want to do. I'll put the poll back up for the fun of it in case some of you guys did not vote in the poll. But don't go anywhere because In a minute, we're going to do our guitar play along song of the night. What do you need for the guitar play along song of the night? Here's the chords that you want to brush up on. Take a second. E, like E major. G in A, E, G, A, piece of cake, right? Piece of cake, E, G, and A. You also need to do a nice, easy E power chord. Fat string open. 5th string, 2nd fret, 0 and 2. There's your E power chord. You're going to need that. Okay, the poll question, just in case you didn't vote. Are you ready to play in public? Yes, you're ready. Great. Second option, no, I need more skills. Hey, maybe you just got your guitar a month ago. That's a valid reason to not feel ready to play in public. Third option, no, I'm not ready to play in public. Just because you need courage. You know, hey, I get that. You know, it's a certain type of bravery you need. And third reason that maybe you're not ready to play in public, maybe you don't know any songs all the way through. You know, I get that. And that's why we do these guitar play-alongs. Okay, so if you have not voted, if you already voted, great. I took a snapshot of those results. If you have not voted, go ahead and vote in the poll right there. Okay. Our play along song of the night. Let's do this. Let's do this just in case the internet gets weird again. From Steppenwolf. That's right, Steppenwolf. The play along song of the night. Born to be Wild. Here it comes. Okay, that's your copy right there. Born to be Wild. Yeah, that same song. We are going to take a minute and make sure you know what you need to do and what order you need to do it. And then we're just going to rock it, man. We're going to rock it. Okay. This, what you're about to do, perfectly fits with the actual recording. Because one of my many dreams for you is that you crank up the recording and play along with this as soon as possible. Is it exactly what they're playing, note for note? No, no. It's super close, totally valid. I would feel very comfortable following this piece of paper. If I got up on stage with a band that was playing this song, I would have no problems playing that thing right there. Michael says, this is on your bucket list. Oh, tonight's the night. Tonight's the night. Okay, so I'm not using any distortion, gain or anything like that, any boosting, because I want you guys to hear the guitar and not have any doubts about what's going on. Okay, the introduction, which very closely relates to what's going on in the verse. Okay, there's an E power chord, right? The 2 fat strings, 0, open 6th string, index finger on the 5th string. You can see that happens. Bum, 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 bum. I recommend the ring finger grabbing 4 on the 5th string at that moment, and pinky grabbing 5 on the 5th string at that moment. No matter what, you're always including the open 6th string. Slow motion. Okay, that's the intro. Okay. Happens 4 times. When the words come in, the only thing that changes, you could keep playing that exact thing. What really changes is the steady stream of that E power chord 8 times in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then the ending is virtually the same as what you did up there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's the 8 in a row. The single E power chord, the E power chord followed by the ring finger grabbing 4, and then the pinky on 5. In slow motion. Okay, that happens a whole bunch of times. Okay, the G. This is yeah, darling, go and make it happen. G for 2 counts. Yeah, A for 2 counts. Darling, go and make it happen. So when I say 2 counts in my mind, I'm thinking G2, A2, E2, 3, 4. You with me? G twice, or G taking up the space of 2 beats. I'm strumming it just once and letting it ring. I could strum it twice. A for 2 beats, E for 4 counts. 2 counts, 2 counts, 4 counts. G, A, E. I'm just doing the old-fashioned chords, just old-fashioned G, old-fashioned A, E major. That happens 4 times. Okay, that sequence happens 4 times. That's yeah, darling, go make it happen. Take the world in a love embrace. Fire all your guns at once and explode into space. Now, I'm calling that the pre-chorus. The way Steppenwolf does it, the song reverts back to this verse thing, and they sing a second verse and a second pre-chorus. And then right on the word true, like a true nature's child, that's when you go on to this E right here. E for 4 counts. Like a true nature's child, 2, 3. We were, here's G, born to be wild, 2, 3, 4. Here comes A, climb so high, 4 counts. G, never gonna die. So when I say 4 counts, I want to make sure that we're on the same page. The little drummer in my head is saying E, 2, 3, 4. E, 2, 3, 4. G, 2, 3, 4. You can strum it however you want, but after 4 counts, it moves on to the next measure, the next thing, you know? It could be E moving on to another E chord, it could be E moving on to a G chord, but that's where I'm coming from. Because I'm hoping that you guys kind of know this song just from hearing it for a few decades. And because I'm going to take it slowly, I think you're going to do great. Finally, we get to this E-D combination. E, born to be D. Wild, E, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4, E, this back and forth thing. Wild, E, wild. Okay, now that's everything you need for the song. We're going to start in a second. There is an awesome organ solo that happens in the middle of the tune. Just so you know, during the organ solo, it's an E chord. You strum it however you want to strum it, but it just so happens the organ solo is, that's all that's going on in the background. Harmonically, it's an E chord. If you happen to know the Jimi Hendrix E7 sharp 9 chord, that the second half of the organ solo, instead of playing like any other kind of E, it's that Jimi Hendrix E chord. Real quick, middle finger 7 on the 5th string, index finger 6 on the 4th string, ring finger 7 on the 3rd string. So far we have 7, 6, 7 on the 5th, 4th, and 3rd. Makes a nice little triangle shape. And then the pinky, this is a crucial note. This is what makes it a Jimi Hendrix, or the Jimi Hendrix chord. 2nd string 8. 7, 6, 7, 8. You know, more than once, Jimi Hendrix employed that chord as a significant part of one of his songs, and it got that nickname, the Jimi Hendrix chord. He did not invent this chord, but he certainly popularized it, and many, many, many people call it the Jimi Hendrix chord. Michael, yes, the organ solo. During the organ solo, use the E minor pentatonic to solo on top of it. Yeah, great idea. Great idea. Okay. Zoologia Zombie. Yes, I will not. That first half of the stream, that'll always be there. Yeah. So don't worry. That's there waiting for you. Okay. Let's do it, you guys. We're going to take this slow because what's the rush, right? Intro 4 times. Verse and pre-chorus. This verse happens a bunch of times. How do you know when it's time for the verse to stop? Looking for adventure and whatever comes our way. There's your cue. Whatever comes our way. That's how you know it's time for G. Yeah, darling, go and make it happen. Okay. Instead of having you guys count 4 times or 8 times or 1,000 times, following the lyrics is a great idea. After that pre-chorus, there's another verse, and then ultimately goes on to, let's call it the chorus, True Nature's Child. Interestingly, I didn't know this, never occurred to me. After the organ solo, the whole song just repeats again. There are no new lyrics. They just repeat the first verse and the True Nature's Child chorus part. Hey, they were done. They were done. Okay. Get your motor running. All right, let's do it, you guys. I'll see you on the other side. Intro 4 times. 1, 2, nice and slow. Get your motor running. Head out on the highway, looking for adventure and whatever comes our way. Yeah, darling, go and make it happen. Take the world in a love embrace. Fire all of your guns at once and explode into space. I like smoke and lightning, heavy metal thunder, racing with the wind, and the feeling that I'm under. Yeah, darling, go and make it happen. Take the world in a love embrace. Fire all of your guns at once and explode into space. Like a true nature's child, we were born to be wild. We can climb so high, never gonna die. Born to be wild. Born to be wild. Here comes the organ solo. I'm doing E power chord. You can do an E major chord. If you want extra credit, at a certain point, you're going to shift up to the Jimi Hendrix chord. The organ solo is still going. As it all wraps up, it goes essentially back to the first verse. 1, 2, first verse. Get your motor running. Head out on the highway, racing with the wind, and whatever comes our way. Yeah, darling, go and make it happen. Take the world in a love embrace. Fire all of your guns at once and explode into space. Like a true nature's child, we were born to be wild. We could fly so high, never wanna die. Born to be wild. Born to be wild. There you go. All right, not half bad, right? If you were to ask me about the very ending of the tune, well, I'm going to refer to my source right there. Rock Guitar Songs for Dummies. The very ending of the tune, it's the same, what you did for the organ solo. E, an E chord, that same vamping on an E chord. And then ultimately it does do the Jimi Hendrix chord at the very end, vamping on that chord as the song fades out. Okay, now let's use this as a teachable moment. What I just did there is not what they're doing. What are they doing? Check it out. Okay, so what's the difference? They're doing an E major chord as a bar chord up at the 7th and 9th frets. Okay. And then what we did with the 4 and the 5, okay, the pinky is either at 11 or 12. That's why I changed it. So I saw that what was written in the book was an E major chord that at that ending, that significant moment at the end, it essentially focused on an E power chord, a 7/9 E power chord on the 5th and 4th strings that required the pinky to reach up to 11 and 12. Okay. I took that concept and moved it 1 octave lower. Makes everything a lot easier, right? And I'm not even doing an E major chord. I'm just doing an E power chord, the easiest possible way of doing an E power chord. And instead of my pinkies reaching up to 11 and 12, oh, so much easier. So did I change the song? I didn't change the song. I changed the guitar part down an octave. So much easier. For those of you who either already know how to do this or you want a challenge, well, there you go. Where are we here? There we go. I mean, don't let me stop you, man. Have a ball. Play the E major chord, bar at 7. I use my, well, you kind of have to use your ring finger flattened out there on squeezing, touching 9 on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th strings. But then when you go to get that pinky involved, it really helps to shift over. I assume that's what they're doing too. They let go of the bar chord component and treat it as a 2-note power chord. We're talking about the pinky on the 4th string 11 and the 4th string 12. Okay, so full disclosure, right? I didn't change the song. I moved the guitar part down an octave, made it a million times easier. When I had you guys strumming just regular G and A and E, like I was just strumming those chords myself, they are, according to my records here, they're basically playing those as bar chords. So I did the old-fashioned G and A, and they're doing a bar chord G and A. Bar at 3, E major shape, and bar at 5, E major shape. So, you know, I'm pretty comfortable doing that. I'm pretty comfortable, you know, but it's super important for me to tell you guys, hey, that's what we did. We made the song for sure easier. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't, if you're so inclined, yeah, go ahead and get yourself that book. What's it called again? Rock Guitar Songs for Dummies. Actually, I use this quite a bit in teaching. There's a bunch of good songs in here. $20, published by Hal Leonard. Yeah. But remember, my goal for us here in this live stream and in this segment of the live stream in particular is to get you guys up and running on a song. We're doing it in the right key, where we got the right order of stuff. You have everything in front of you here so that you can add it to your repertoire. Someone says, what songs you know? Well, you know the song now, right? To bring it home, you want to crank up the real version of it, right? The recording, and play along with it, right? That's how, number one, it's so fun. So fun. Number two, that's how you kind of assure yourself that you've got this, right? Apple cider from Lyman's Orchards, our unofficial sponsor, till they send me that cease and desist. Oh, that's good apple cider from right here in Connecticut, USA. All right, you guys. Born to be Wild. There you go. Now, I see we got 26 friends in the chat. Thank you guys for following me. I honestly don't know. I assumed that I'd solved all internet issues when I went from a speed of 10 to a speed of 500. Who knows? I don't know. Laura Linney, Golden Globe winner. Laura Linney is in town right across the street as we speak. There you go. Now you know. We've been anticipating her arrival here in small town Connecticut. And she's receiving an award at the Katharine Hepburn Cultural Arts Center, which is a very cool theater across the street. Okay. I'm here for your questions. That's never going to change. I also have my own agenda for stuff I want to show you. Oh, let's do that chord royalty stuff. Okay. This is not going to take too long, but I think I always say that, don't I? I can't wait to show you this. And this ties in with the whole notion of playing chords up the neck and getting comfortable using your entire fretboard. Okay, what's this whole thing about chord royalty? Well, for those of you who maybe missed previous live streams, these are chords that are special. Chords you just can't, not that you can't live without them, although that's true. It's also that these are chords that will show up so often in your future that they really are worth an extra bit of attention. Okay, we did major chords a few live streams ago. We did minor chords. As you probably know, there's three main flavors of chords in popular music: majors, minors, and sevenths, also known as dominant sevenths. Okay, so what are we talking about? Let's actually start with D7 right there. Good old D7. 4 skinny strings. I'm hoping that you guys know your D7 chord. These chords, dominant 7 chords, are 4-note chords. It takes 4 notes to fully make a dominant 7th chord. I want you to accept the fact that very often guitar players will play only 3 of the 4 notes, and not only is that allowed, but sometimes that's what you're supposed to do. You are implying a chord. So that's one concept I want you to feel okay about. It's okay to imply a chord. People do it all the time, and we are going to do that too. And here's why it's significant. When you strum an old-fashioned D7, we include the open D string. Makes sense, right? We're about to move that D7 formation up the neck. We are not going to include the open D string. Not only that, but remember I said it's a 4-note chord. We only have 3 of the notes. That is okay. That's life, you know. Don't even worry about it. But I want you to start thinking along these lines, right? 7th chords are 4-note chords, and it's extremely common to play only 3 of the 4 notes. Okay, so D7. Anybody who can play D7, you now have a grip, a formation that you can go all the way up and down the neck and play 7th chords, any 7th chord anyone ever asks you to play, you can play it with that grip. You just need to know where to put that chord to achieve the sound you're going for. Okay, now how are you going to know that? Here's the academic way, which is a good way. The musical alphabet. See that musical alphabet down there at the bottom of the page? Every time you move a grip like the D7 grip up 1 fret, you advance 1 letter of the musical alphabet. We all know that's D7. There's the D right there. When I move my grip up 1 fret, the new name for this thing is a D sharp 7. The alternative name for D sharp 7 is an E flat 7. 2 different names, same thing. That's just life. You just have to deal with it. Okay? That's an E flat 7 or D sharp 7. I go up 1 more fret. I'm now playing an E7. Okay? So you see why I put this at the bottom of the page? You can follow along with the musical alphabet, and that's one way. If someone wants you to play F7, you can use that musical alphabet down there to glide up fret by fret until you're at an F7, until your D7 formation sounds like an F7 chord, because it is an F7 chord. For the record, F7 involves the D7 chord up 3 frets. And again, you're only going to strum the 3 strings that you're touching with your fingers. That's an F7. 2 more frets up, that's a G7. Okay? Now, my scenario for you is you have at least a few minutes, if not a day or a week, to plan this out. So some of you might say, I don't know if I'm going to be able to figure that out fast enough. Right, I get that. So that's why I'm hoping that someone says, hey, can you learn this song for Sunday? Like, okay. And you realize, okay, I'm going to need G7. You have time to figure out where the G7 is. It's okay if it takes you a minute. I would expect it to take you a minute. Don't beat yourself up, you know. But if you had a few days, I have no doubt you'd be able to figure it out, you know, and that's how you figure out that musical alphabet down there. Okay, moving on, C7. C7 is another valuable one. It's a grip that not only can you move it up the neck, but you will, I'll give you an example in a minute, you will find plenty of opportunities. Take that C7 chord and move the whole chord up the neck. You want to retain that same formation. Some of you have never done this before. As you move up the neck, you start to lose the shape. Fingers will get wiggly and wobbly, and all of a sudden you'll be like, oh, it sounds terrible. Yeah, I get that. So you want to be diligent, conscientious, and make sure that you retain the exact relationship of every finger, you know, to the string it's on, to the other fingers. Name this tune. What song is that? When I was just a little boy. John Fogerty, the C7 formation up 4 frets. His index finger is at 5. It's still the C7 grip, but it's up 4 frets. The name of the chord is E7. E is an echo. He's arpeggiating it. That's the name for when someone takes a chord, they pluck out the individual notes. So great. Because it's an E7 chord, you can actually include that fat open E string. Sounds great. You could include the open skinny E string as well. That's a coincidence. You can't always take that for granted, but what a cool sound, right? Okay, so there's a real life example of someone who took a C7, what I'm calling chord royalty, and made a great song. Name of the song is, you know, it's Creedence Clearwater Revival, Born on a Bayou. So great. Okay, our third royal chord in the dominant 7th family, A7. Now watch out. I'm specifically encouraging guys to do this specific A7. Play an A major chord, but with 1 finger, not 3 separate fingers, 1 finger. Add on, I like my ring finger, but you can use whatever you want. 1st string, 3rd fret. So I'm doing a little partial bar at the 2nd fret to get my A major. In my case, I'm using my ring finger, 1st string, 3rd fret. That is an A7 chord. Of course, I can include the open A string, but as soon as I move that grip up, I should not include any open string, right? That's okay. That's okay. We got lots of good stuff right there. Oh, we're on 4 strings, and we have all 4 notes. In this case, we are not implying a chord. The other 2 chords, the D7 formation, the C7 formation, technically, when we move those up the neck, we were implying those chords. Not all 4 notes were represented in those 2 grips, believe it or not. In the case of this A7 grip, yes, all 4 chords are right, all 4 notes of the chord are right there. Okay, any major chord, any dominant 7th chord, anyone ever asks you to play, you could play it with that grip. And man, I would have a hard time picking a favorite. because there's cool things about all three of those grips. If a song had nothing but seventh chords, for instance, most every blues song in the world, you could play the entire blues song with nothing but those three grips. You would just have to know where to put them, based on that song. I feel super confident that I have a YouTube video that goes over all this stuff. I think I have one for up the neck majors, one for up the neck minors, and one for up the neck seventh chords. Okay, so I'm going to move on because some of you get this totally. You're good to go. Those of you who don't, you can always return to this, right? This whole thing is being recorded. You can always come back to this moment, and I'll be time stamping this video. Typically, I do that on Sunday morning. So if you wait till Sunday morning, I'll be time stamping this, so it'll be very easy for you to find this exact moment. Okay, so if you're good for the moment, I want to do a little music theory, but it's gonna be some physical skills first, and then we'll get into music theory. Okay. And we're gonna morph the dominant sevens into major sevens, but I think I'm gonna use this page for that. Okay. Remember that probably the first way you ever learned for playing A7, just the 2-finger, 2-note version. Remember that? Many of you, that's the only way you ever played A7. And that's going to be very relevant for what we're about to do. For kicks, I want to show you what happens when you change A major to A major 7 to A dominant 7. The dominant 7s, those are the ones we've been talking about for the last 5 minutes, the bluesy sounding ones. It's extremely common for songwriters to insert an A major 7 as a very cool melodic songwriting trick after regular A, especially if they want to go to A dominant 7. I'll play it for you and it might ring some bells. A major 7. We're going to talk about that in a minute, to A dominant 7. And I'm going to pick it carefully so you hear this little melody that's happening. Okay, here we go. Did you hear that little descending? I'm gonna isolate the descending sound. Change to. Now with the chord harmony in there. Hear that? So pretty. A major 7, A dominant 7. If you like that, great. I do too. If it sounds familiar, great. Yeah. By the way, if you want to know what typically would come after that, if there was a new chord, it would be a D. A7 creates tension. That tension gets resolved very nicely by a D major chord. Okay, so we got A, 3 fingers right in a row, beautiful sound. We got A dominant 7 with the open G string. The in-between chord, the in-between sound is achieved right here. See that note? The A major 7 includes the 3rd string 1st fret. 3rd string 1st fret. And the easiest way to grab that, it's like a triangular shape. Ring finger, 2nd string, 2nd fret. Index finger, this is the new note. This happens to be the note G sharp. 3rd string 1st fret. Middle finger, 4th string 2nd fret. 2, 1, 2, right? It's as if we took our A major chord and pushed your middle finger back from the 2nd fret back to the 1st fret, but that's pretty awkward. So instead we do a little switcheroo. A major, my ring finger stays, but my other 2 fingers do a little switcheroo. And if you're careful with your pick, you can really bring the listener's attention to what just changed. I'm on that A major 7. To change to A dominant 7 couldn't be easier. I just let go of my index finger and I have open G string. A major. So pretty, right? By the way, this is called A major 7 because the note that we added there, the G sharp, is the 7th note of an A major scale. So that chord is called A major 7. A dominant 7, the open G string, the G note, is the flatted 7th note of an A major scale. What does flat mean? Literally, it means to go back 1 fret that way. We had the 1st fret, and then that 1st fret note on the 3rd string turned into the open 3rd string. We flatted it. We moved it back towards the nut, right? Ah, so cool. Here's the same thing with a D. D major, D major 7, D dominant 7. Okay? Regular old D chord. D major 7 couldn't be easier. I recommend index finger, a little partial bar, the 3 treble strings at the 2nd fret. But you might as well keep including the open D string. Why not? Beautiful. And then D dominant 7. So this little melodic thing in this case is happening on the 2nd string. Where does D7 like to go? D7 is full of tension. That tension loves to get resolved by a G chord. Here it comes. I'll do this and I'll end on the G chord. Ah, there's that G. Beautiful. Last but not least, C. C major chord, easy peasy. Lift off your pointer finger, it becomes a C major 7. Very pretty sound. And then C dominant 7. I'm going to put my pointer finger back. Pinky, you know this, 3rd string, 3rd fret. There's that bluesy note we've been looking for. C, C major 7, C dominant 7. Hear that little walk down? This note to this note to this note. Songwriters do this kind of thing all the time. It's cheap and easy, and it sounds so sophisticated. On paper, it is sophisticated. Your fingers don't think it's particularly sophisticated. By the way, I chose the key of A, the key of D, the key of C because those are the easiest ways to get this chord progression. If I chose a different key, yeah, admittedly, they would be a little bit harder. So I chose 3 starting places, A, D, and C. I chose those specifically to set us up for success. You got it. Scott says, I use that A7 a lot between the A and the next chord. Yeah. You're on a major chord, not much tension in a major chord. 7th chords, specifically dominant 7th chords, are full of tension. And that creates an expectation in the listener. They think something's going to happen, and there you are with whatever the next chord is. It might be something that the listener, that makes a lot of sense to a listener. A7, for example, likes to go to D. Or it might be something, you might be pulling a fast one, might go to something else. You never know. You tell us, right? Dennis says, the way you teach, I get a lot from. Thank you, Dennis. Dennis says he's played for over 30 years, but still only plays chords. Yeah, although don't underestimate the value of being able to play chords. But I know it's satisfying to throw in some other stuff, right? You know, guys, you gotta know I love that what I call the universal riff. It's fun to strum chords, throw in a little something extra, and then come back to the chords, right? Again, songwriters have a way of inserting that kind of stuff all the time. But again, don't underestimate the value of playing only chords. In general, that's what the world really wants you to do. Even though people love being impressed by a screaming guitar solo and flashy stuff, and that's great. Nothing wrong with that. In general, what the world really wants you to do is to play whatever it takes to get people singing, to get a singer singing, to get the room singing, whatever, you know. That the world really values that, because then the party can begin, right? Some amazing fast guitar solo is cool. It reflects a ton of work and a dedication to the instrument, and usually, you know, a little bit of that goes a long way, right? So if you're the kind of person who can bang out a whole lot of chords, and if someone put a piece of paper in front of you and it showed you what chords to play, you could pretty much bang them all out. Some nice, consistent strumming. Maybe you know a handful of picking patterns, a handful of finger picking patterns. That you are a valuable musician. So don't underestimate that. You know. Okay, now I know we're getting into overtime here, extra innings. How about if I throw a few quick things your way, and I really appreciate you guys sticking around. So let me share a couple of quick things with you, by way of saying thank you for sticking around. Okay, now I'm going to make this kind of fast, but why not, right? Famous novelist Anais Nin said something that struck me. She said, "Music melts all the separate parts of our bodies together." Music melts all the separate parts of our bodies together. I like that. Your fingers, your brain, your heart, your breathing, right? I like that. She may have been talking about the experience of listening to music, which is great. We can relate to that quote because we are using our entire bodies, you know. Very interesting. Music melts all the separate parts of our bodies together. Quote, a student quote of the week. I was teaching a student, and we were talking about the strum pattern where you go, the classic. I'm going to do this on an E minor chord. Down, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up. And I mentioned how if you do 2 upstrokes in a row, you silently come down so you can achieve the next upstroke, right? There's a moment where you're doing that. He says, oh, like a swing and a miss. I'm like, yeah, I love that, man. A swing and a miss. Down, down, up, swing and a miss. Up, down, down, up, down, swing and a miss. I like that. Warren Haynes. Many of you guys know Warren Haynes for his contributions to the Allman Brothers, Government Mule. And I saw Warren Haynes quote that it just kind of confirmed what we all know, and we're all supposed to know it. Warren Haynes was talking about soloing. He said, when I listen to tapes and recordings of me playing 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever it is, I always think, what's the hurry? Why are you playing so many notes? You know, when I listen to a lot of my favorite people, starting with B.B. King, if you can make more music with fewer notes, it's always the better option. There you go. There you go, right? Making more music with fewer notes, it's the better option. I mean, he's asking himself why. He's asking his younger self, why are you playing so many notes? Yeah, I love hearing different perspectives, especially perspective from someone who's done this for decades. And I'm sure many of you guys know Warren Haynes. I saw this ties in perfectly with this quote. I used to live in Chicago. I would go to blues clubs around Chicago, and one night the little buzz around the club was, oh, Warren Haynes just walked in. Maybe he's going to sit in with the blues band that's playing the Chicago Blues Club. And sure enough, an hour later, whenever Warren Haynes gets up to play with this blues band. What a classy act, man. He didn't overplay. He just played a very cool solo when it was his turn to play a solo. And that's how you do it, you know? He just played with taste, you know? And I wasn't super familiar. I just knew he was a hotshot guitar player. I didn't know too much about him. When I saw that, I'm like, that's all I need to know about him, man. That's how you do it. You know, you're some rock star showing up in a little nightclub. A lot of things can go wrong. Nope, he didn't do it. It was very cool. Okay, so I want to get a couple of those quotes out there into the ether. Bad habits. Okay, I'm going to make this quick too. I can't tell you how many, but the majority of adults who come to me for lessons, very early in the first lesson, they say, the reason I'm here is I don't want any bad habits. Got it. It's very smart, very smart. So let's talk about the bad habits that you might have. And certainly these are the bad habits that I see, especially if someone truly has, well, there's the people who have never played the guitar before. They don't have any bad habits. They just unpacked it from Amazon. But there's other people who have played for a few years. And this is what I see when I start thinking like, okay, let's see if we have to correct any bad habits. So let's talk about your picking hand. I'm going to call it the right hand. Sorry to you lefties. I'm going to talk about right hand bad habits. One of the biggest bad habits I see for right hands, people who are just, they're afraid of the pick. They're afraid of it. They don't want to use it. They're not comfortable. They say, yeah, I pretty much just use, whatever finger. I just don't like picks. It's tough, man. It's tough. I appreciate where they're coming from, but it's not a good thing. If you're not comfortable using a pick, there's probably a whole bunch of reasons for that, but you're someone like me wants to give you a chance to become a comfortable with a pick because it opens up so many doors. So in terms of a bad habit or just something that I want to address right from the start, people who are afraid of using a pick, they just never got comfortable with it and they have never used it maybe for more than a minute before they put it down and start playing with bare fingers. Not great. Holding a pick too tightly, that's a bad habit. You want to hold the pick most of the time so loosely you're about to drop it. I'm totally fine watching my students drop their picks. I think it's a great thing. It means they're not squeezing it too tightly. So long story short, hold the pick looser. You won't regret it. People who hold their picks in weird ways, they're rock stars who hold their picks in weird ways. I get it. That's not why they're good guitar players. In general, curl up your 4 fingertips on your right hand. Your thumb holds the pick against the side of your index finger. Your thumb really does all the pressing. The pick points down perpendicular to your thumb. You won't go wrong holding the pick that way. Is there a gray area that's related to that? Yeah. But in general, that's what you want to do. What you don't want is to pinch it between your thumb tip and your index tip. Don't do it. Just because Eric Clapton does, we're not going to do that, Last one for your right hand. People who just don't trust the right hand and they have to constantly look at the right hand. I get it. 100% I get it. The sooner you wean yourself off of that, the better. You got to develop a little bit of trust over time. The right hand only has 6 strings to keep track of in general. Try to not look at your right hand. Now, by the way, all 4 of these things I just mentioned, they're all very human things. None of these that I'm mentioning, there's no judgment here. I did all of those things, I'm sure. Well, I always used a pick right from the start. Everything else, I'm sure I did. I'm sure I needed this advice early on too. Okay, fretting hand, left hand. Bad habits, pressing too hard, especially when there's a chord and you're not getting it right. And so because you're human, you squeeze it harder and harder and try to, usually squeezing harder is not the solution. It often contributes to whatever's going wrong. That's a bad habit in general. Bar chords. Prioritizing bar chords over everything else, bad habit. Stressing out over bar chords, letting your hand get tense and cramped and getting upset over bar chords, bad habit, not worth it. Bar chords are a good pursuit. Make sure you do lots of other stuff. It's like, eating something that's good for you. Yeah, eat it. Eat a little bit of it. Don't make it the only thing you eat, not the only thing. In general, treat bar chords with caution. Don't let bar chords make you crazy. I'll leave it at that. Another issue for left hand, basics. always go back to the basics. Whatever else you're practicing. Do you know the 16 common chords? You have them memorized? You have them sounding good? C, A minor, G, G7, F, E minor. There's 16 of them. It's always time well spent to review those chords and to make sure they sound good. Make sure you have them memorized. It is a bad habit, so to speak, to neglect those 16 chords. Do not neglect those. Are you playing any sort of scales as part of your practice routine? Any scale, major, pentatonic, anything. Not for any other reason than scales make your left hand fingers fast, smart, and confident, especially a scale that uses all 4 of your fingers. Okay, and I can give you examples moving forward in the future, but get yourself a scale book. And I've been trying to keep this book handy because I enjoy it myself. Why not? The Mel Bay Complete Book of Guitar Chord Scales and Arpeggios. It is a bad thing to never practice any scales. How do you think your fingers get smarter and faster? What you don't want to do, and this is another bad habit, you don't want to chase songs. Always be looking for the next song. Always deciding, this one song's not going well. I'm going to chase after some other song. What's another song? I want to learn an easy song. But I get that impulse. I get it. You got to do some fundamental stuff too. Going song to song to song, that might not directly make you it almost certainly will not directly make you a better guitar player. It makes you better sort of indirectly. Practicing scales makes you better every day, especially, again, a scale that uses all 4 of your fingers. Reviewing those 16 chords, that makes you a better, more competent guitar player. Yeah, every day. Chasing songs. We're going to do a whole segment someday on putting reasonable limits on chasing after song, after song, after song, after song. Okay, last little tip in terms of a bad habit. Playing things out of context forever. And here's what I mean by out of context. Never playing with a metronome or the next best thing, playing along with the original recording. It's a one thing to work on what you need for a song. Slow, I get it, that's awesome. Doing it mechanically, very smart, very wise. At a certain point, you gotta take it to the next level. Either play it with the original recording to the best of your ability. Don't forget, not only will YouTube allow you to slow things down, but I have news to report. I just discovered this today. I just discovered that YouTube allows you to slow things down incrementally. It's not just 75%, 50%, 25% anymore. You can get incrementally in the in-between spots. I just learned that today. I think it's a new change. Makes me so happy. As soon as possible, whether it's playing along with the original version or a slowed down version of the original song, you got to make that move from playing something mechanically to playing it in context, in time. Eventually, when the time is right. I understand that might be a week, a month, longer. I get it. Playing it with a metronome takes discipline. I get it. But as soon as possible, you want to push yourself to play something in context like that. I would call it a bad habit or not ideal to never push yourself to that next step, even if it's unsuccessful. I get it, but you want to find whatever speed you can accomplish. Is it frustrating? Totally. It's not always going to be frustrating, but you got to do that reality check. Okay, so in terms of bad habits, or at least things that you might not have thought of that you can address, those are what comes to mind. Okay, we're getting towards the end, my friends. Okay. The original version of Hound Dog, written by Lieber and Stoller, recorded by Big Mama Thornton, 1952, 1953. Pete Lewis on guitar. What makes that significant? The little insider history on that recording. They did it in one take, but as they were rehearsing it, Pete Lewis's guitar amp blew up. What are you going to do? Got to have a guitar on the track they plugged him directly into the mixing board, whatever passed for a mixing board in the early 1950s. So I will put a link to the actual recording in the description of this video. The guitar does have this tight, focused kind of sound. That's what it sounds like when you plug the guitar directly into the mixing board, as opposed to miking the amplifier in some way. And it's very cool to hear it, little insider history. So what I don't know is how rare that was. I'm not saying he's the first human being to ever find himself in that situation. Although, hey, I don't know. The great Les Paul, for example, did so much guitar experimenting on a technological level that if anyone did it first, it's Les Paul. Nevertheless, when you hear the original version of Hound Dog, sung by Big Mama Thornton, Pete Lewis on guitar, 1952, 1953, you hear the sound of that guitar, bang, plugged from the guitar right into the mixing board. How would he be able to hear himself? Because don't forget, there's drums. They're recording live, right? There's Big Mama Thornton singing. He did have headphones. How do I know all this stuff? I will tell you. Instagram. There's a very cool clip that I saw because I follow a guitar shop in Missouri called David's Guitar Loft. David's Guitar Loft. I've plugged in before. He posts such cool stuff. So 2 weeks ago, he posted a very cool clip of Big Mama Thornton talking about that recording session, talking about Pete Lewis plugging directly into the board. I thought, it's so cool. Very interesting. Now you know what I know. I highly recommend following David's Guitar Loft on Instagram. He always posts interesting stuff. And if you live in the vicinity of Missouri, go check him out. The new issue of Songlines magazine has arrived. I'm sure next live stream I'll be talking about some cool stuff that I learned. I love this magazine, Songlines magazine. Discover the world through music. Lots of very cool writing about musicians all over the world, including guitar players. All right, my friends. I will put, just to wrap up, in the description of this video, I'm going to put a link to a very cool concert. Tony Rice and David Grisman had just put out an album called Tone Poems, and they recorded themselves doing all the songs from Tone Poems on these incredibly valuable vintage instruments, which is kind of the point of the recording session. They did it live at George Gruhn's guitar shop down in Nashville, Gruhn's Guitars, with George Gruhn explaining the significance of the instruments right before they play a song featuring those instruments. Very cool. There's no video, it's only audio, but it's on YouTube. It's a very fun listen. If you're doing stuff around the house tomorrow, put that on and listen while you're doing your Sunday routine. And I think you get a big kick out of it. I wish there were video. Maybe there is somewhere, but what I found was audio only. But that's all you need, right? David Grisman and Tony Rice, two of the best musicians. Very cool stuff. I will put, when we wrap up, give me a few minutes, and I'll put the link to that in the description of this video. Okay, my friends, we covered all the important stuff. All right, I see 25 of you. Thank you for jumping over to the second half of the live stream. I appreciate that more than you know. I will timestamp both live streams, live stream 63 and live stream 63.1. That's what I'm calling this one. I'll timestamp both of those tomorrow morning. So come on back and check out any of the stuff that you want to check out again. On that note, I will see you guys next Saturday, hopefully with no technological difficulties. Thank you all for being here. The poll results. Okay. The poll results, where'd they go? I might have to put those in the chat. There we go. Okay, poll results. Are you ready to play music in public? 42% of you say yes, 42%. 34% say, I need more skills. 15% say, what I need is courage. I'm not ready yet. And only 7% of you say what you need is songs. Very interesting. So that means 93% of you have something to play. Well, I guess some of you say you need more skills. Well, 42% are ready to go, and 15% just need the guts. So that's 57% of you feel like you have, hopefully you feel like you have the skills. You just need, well, that's what you need. Okay, very cool. I'm gonna process all this stuff in my little brain. All right, you guys. See you next Saturday. My weekend begins now. Take care, everybody.